Title is I am a 33-year-old man and attempting to recover from a failed open marriage with my wife. That's already a open marriage. Yikes. What are you're already asking for something there. Just saying, just being honest. So it says here, I am truly at a loss as to what to do with my marriage currently. I'm not only venting here, but seeking genuine advice from experience if possible. My wife and I got married 4 years ago, and we now have a 2-year-old daughter. That's sad. 2-year-old is in the mix of this. Bruh. Here we go. I work 50 to 60 hours a week, so she is able to stay at home and be a full-time mom. That's a good thing. Things between us started off extremely passionate and slowed down to a nice place where there was still passion, but more balance with everyday life and having a family. That's a good thing. Here it goes. Let's see. Here it goes. About 6 months ago, I had an accident resulting in a spinal cord injury and was on disability for 4 months while I recovered. That's sad, man. It says here, during this time, my wife began to become distant. Whew. She began wanting to go out to the bars with her girlfriends more often and even expressed that she wanted more from me emotionally and physically, even though I was going through a very rough time mentally, being forced to stay at home instead of work to support my family and being unable to have sex in a traditional way due to my back injury, which is understandable. He says, after a few months into my disability, she began showing signs of serious depression and was more distant than ever. So I decided we needed to sit down and have a talk about everything. So that's why I think context is important. I wouldn't do it, but I'm understanding now why he was feeling a little bit more open if he doesn't have the ability to. I wouldn't do it, but I have some empathy for that. So let's continue. It says, during our talk, it turned out that she wanted to try to have an open marriage. She said she was miserable, that she felt disconnected from me, and that she wanted to explore the polyamorous side of her, which I had never heard of or suspected was a part of her personality until that moment. Poor guy. It says, I have always loved her more than life, and I hated seeing her miserable. This is a sad story, man. Oh. He says, I've always loved her more than life, and I hated seeing her miserable, and I was currently under a medical impression of multiple sclerosis. So in the state of mind, I agreed to let her see other people, but with very specific rules in place. Okay, so what were these rules? Don't catch feelings. If feelings are suspected and ended immediately, no extra partners are allowed near our daughter. Don't stay the night from each other. We have been inseparable up until this point. Use our house as a last resort to meet people. No sex in the house, and no one comes near our bed. If one of us is unhappy with the situation, it ends, no questions. It says our family always comes first no matter what. If it seems like our marriage is at risk of our daughter or our daughter is being affected negatively, then we'll call it off. Use protection always during any sexual intercourse. So that was his rules. Ooh, this is getting heavy, guys. So it also indicates over a 3-month period, every single rule was broken on her end. Not 2 weeks into the trial run. 2 weeks? Only 2 weeks? After 2 weeks into the trial run, what happened? Let's see here. So after 2 weeks into the trial run, she met this guy named Jesse. I noticed early that she was talking to him all the time, snapping him, face chatting, and when I brought it up, she said they were just good friends. Bruh. Yikes. Says by this point, I was already miserable and had already been expressing almost daily that I wanted the open marriage to end. So he wanted it to stop. and that it wasn't working for me and that I'd rather put all my energy into our marriage. I even got cleared of the muscular sclerosis. Shout out to him. Shout out to him. Okay. Then what? What happened after that? He said he was starting to go back to work and was feeling like himself again. Slowly, he assumed that he would be able to give her more attention, get out of the disability fog, and that she would be happy again. That was not the case. She told him that he was making her more miserable than ever by not letting her explore the poly relationship freely. Bruh. He says, I soon became a bummer to her new lifestyle, and she completely threw everything we worked for years in our marriage out the window over the next few months, all over this complete loser who had no job, no car, no place of his own, and he was 4 years younger than her and immature from what I gathered about him. Are you guys tracking with this right now? This is getting, yikes. This is sad. This is sad. Just a little bit of a recap here with the story. So the man here who had this horrible accident where he had a spinal cord injury, out of a point of love and a low point in their lives, he acquiesced, it's hard to say that word, to his wife's request to have an open marriage because he wasn't able to fulfill his end of the bargain. So that's the route that he went. Okay. I'm not going to judge him, but I wouldn't do that. So he laid out the rules. We went over the rules. The first rule that he had was do not catch feelings for somebody. I think it's evident based on what we've heard so far that started to happen because, as we know, men and women are different, especially when it comes to women and sexual encounters. A woman, they release like a hormone when they're having, intimate contact with somebody that's going to make them bond and attach to the person. So I think that's what happened here. And once that starts happening, the guy could be broke, no job, all that type of stuff like you were saying, and she's starting to get attached to him. Red flag. That's why you don't want to do this if you can help it. But maybe we can learn from this. Hopefully we can learn from this situation. So let's continue on with the story. It's getting good. If you're watching on the replay, listening to the audio version of the podcast, I appreciate you. YouTube people, like the video, subscribe to the channel. Let's continue. So it indicates here. Oh man, this is really getting sad. I'm sorry. He says, over the next few months, I began to become I can't even say it. All right. SU idol. All right. He said, I hated the idea of other men effing my wife, and even worse, her having emotional feelings for them in the process. He says, I hardly ever saw her anymore, and my daughter didn't see her as much either, and was beginning to want me more than her, which was never the case before. I became broken mentally. I would yell, throw items in the house. I'd leave, call her horrible names, and tell her she was cheating on me every day because I was begging her to stop, and she continued anyway. Oh, this took a turn. He said, this is real though. This is a real story. He says, I know I was in the wrong completely for lashing out that way, but I had never experienced so much heartbreak in my life and had no idea what to do with all the feelings and emotions I was dealing with every second of every day. I would be chill for a few days at a time and try my best to just leave her alone. Then I would explode all of my thoughts onto her, being unable to keep it all in. It was exhausting for her, I know, and I wish now I acted differently. Ooh. So he's going to go into the conclusion of the story, but I kind of want to give some commentary here. What I'll say is, in this new world that we're in, with people being more open, with women being more sexually liberated, what it has caused is it's caused situations like this where men who sacrifice a lot to get married and everything are in this weird predicament now. If they open up that box of shells, I mean, once you put the toothpaste out of the tube, you can never put that back in again. Once she starts emotionally bonding with another guy or multiple guys, you're toast pretty much. The way I see it. So why even go down that route? Why even open that up? So I feel bad for this guy, but he made this decision in a point where he was in a bad way, that unfortunately bit him in the butt. And I think he acknowledges that. It's just, this is a very sad story. Dang, I didn't know it was going to be this sad. See, I didn't want to read all of this story. I just kind of read a little bit of it before I went live, because I wanted this to be an honest reaction and commentary on the subject matter. All right. So let's continue and conclude what's going on with this story. Nice. There we go. That's better. So it indicates here. So long story shorter, she finally ended up breaking things off with the guy when she realized all they did was argue half the time and he treated her like shit. Bruh. So he wasn't even treating her well. No job. Yikes. He says after that, she finally decided to agree to one of the many broken rules we set up, and she stopped the open marriage trial completely. He says, it's been about a month now and things are at a strange place with us, I feel. She says she's not in love with me anymore, but still loves me and thinks she could fall in love with me again over time. ? And that she wants to stay with me and even have more kids in the future. Bruh. No. Stop that. That's not a good idea. Not a good idea. Don't subject the kids to that. During the last month, I had 2 procedures and my back is nearly fully recovered. That's awesome. Shout out to him. Shout out to him for that. That could not be easy. He says, I am working out now regularly, taking care of myself, working 60 hours again, taking care of my wife and our baby the best of my abilities. I flirt again with my wife. We F every now and again, and the sex seems to be better than ever physically, but I don't feel any intimacy, and I also don't believe I love her anymore. Hold on, what? Okay, I wasn't expecting that. He says, every time I look at her, I see the men she effed all while I was begging her to stop. So he has resentment. I could have guessed this. He says, every time I look around our house, I think about how she effed that Jesse guy on our couch and probably in our bed when I was at work or at a friend's house. Every time we F, I wonder if she's thinking of other men. I started therapy and it hasn't helped at all. It just makes me resent my wife even more. This is the dangers, okay? This is the dangers of the poly lifestyle, the open lifestyle. People think they can handle it for a period of time, but you can never put that toothpaste back in the tube. I'll say again, I'm killing that analogy, but I'm going to keep doing it.